There's no doubt that Judeo-Christian tradition in this country is under attack.
Yeah, there is doubt. I never could get my brain around this war on Christmas complaint. America is predominantly a Christian country. Yet for years, lots of my colleagues here at Fox have said Christianity is under attack.
America's assault on religion now hitting ground zero.
Faith under fire.
It's more than a war on religious liberty. This is a war targeting the Christian faith.
Targeting Christians? I just don't see it, except from maybe a few fringe groups, one of which we'll hear from later. But most Americans are Christian. We celebrate Christian holidays like Christmas and Easter. Also, this is a very religious country. 90% of Americans say they believe in God. 40% say they go to church every week. In France and Germany, fewer than 10% go. In Denmark, 3%. One poll asked Americans, would you vote for a presidential candidate who is black, a woman, Catholic, Jewish, Muslim? The majority said yes. The group that did the worst, with 43% saying no, I wouldn't vote for them, was atheists. This is a religious country. That's not good for me. I'm not religious. I wish I were. More on that later in the show. But my not being religious makes me a clear minority in America. So I want to ask Tony Perkins, president of the Family Research Council, what are you religious people complaining about? You've won.
Well, John, certainly and fortunately, Americans here, Christians, other religious Americans, are not losing their lives like they are in the Middle East. But as you've talked about already on your program, they are losing their rights. We're seeing increasingly government come in, and this line of separation that we've heard about for so long that separates church from state, it's not being breached by the church. It's being breached by the state, as the state is taking away the rights of religious Americans.
This is pretty rare.
I don't think so. I think it's increasing, as we've seen over the last 40 to 50 years. We've seen it in our school systems. We've seen it on college campuses.
Well, how have we seen it in school systems?
When students, valedictorians, salutatorians begin to give their commencement speeches, offer prayers, you'll see young people like Roy Costner, who simply want to give credit to where credit was due in his life, and that was to his relationship with his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And he was shut down, but he did it anyway.
And by shut down, the school board said you may not recite the Lord's Prayer in your speech.
He could not make reference to God and so on and so forth. He literally had to get a pre-approved speech, all right? The speech, this is his personal speech. It had to be pre-approved. He said, okay, he went through all the process, but then on graduation day, he ripped up that speech and gave the speech he wanted to give.
And here's a clip of that. This is Roy Costner, valedictorian of Liberty High School in South Carolina, disobeying the rule from his school board.
Most of you will understand when I say, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come.
And the audience was clearly with him. So these are this is an idiot school board and a few isolated incidents.
Well, they're not so isolated. In fact, John, we have a document called Hostility to Religion. It's a catalog of these cases increasingly across the country, school boards, city councils, where you've got these groups like the Freedom from Religion Foundation threaten lawsuits, and because of tight budgets, oftentimes they back down, and they violate the First Amendment freedoms of students, of members, of citizens, and this is increasingly happening. It's not isolated. It's becoming widespread in our culture today.
And when you sort of mock this title, Freedom from Religion Foundation, sounds reasonable to me, because I want to be free from religious coercion, say from
Absolutely.
the Christian majority.
I agree. And you're not forced to, for instance, where Roy led that audience in citing the Lord's Prayer, no one was going to come out there and move your lips and make you say the words, but others should be free to do it if we're better off when people do attend church, both individually and collectively as a society. Well, because we look at it in the numbers, and this is all based upon the government's own research or their own data that we collect, they collect, we do the research on, that children, for instance, who grow up in homes where there's regular church attendance do better in their math and science scores. They're less likely to get involved in criminal behavior, less likely to become pregnant outside of wedlock. It has positive side effects for all, even those who don't participate in it.
Well, not necessarily all. In some ways, Politico ran a column saying Republicans lost the culture war. Abortion, gay marriage, contraception. The public has turned against conservative Christians on those issues.
They've been writing those stories for probably 25, 30 years, that every election cycle, how the religious right is dead, how social conservatives are gone. But it's amazing when you look at the potential presidential candidates, how many are actually in the field vying for that social conservative vote. When you look at last election cycle, 2012, not that long ago, of the primary voters for Republicans, 50% were evangelical social conservatives. And in the general election, it's over 25%. So I don't think they're going away anytime soon.
No. Thank you, Tony Perkins. Coming up, a debate with a